looks like. We have people trying to twist and turn their eyes. We have people trying to reduce their arms, suck out fats from their stomach, and try to see how they could enlarge their hips and everywhere around their pelvic areas. Well, this is what society says at the end of the day, and this is what society wants to see you looking like. But then we talk about cosmetic consent today because cosmetic consent is very, very, very important when we talk about this. And so even if you have a patient walking up to you and the patient says they would like to go through all of these processes, well, it behoves on you to understand that they might have the choice, but what exactly could be the reason for why they have made these choices? Do they want to work about it, or do they want to talk about it? What are their choices? Recently, we have a particular actress who has gone on a body enhancement procedure. Now, during the first one, she was so pitiful. I mean, we all got to see how she suffered and what the pain was like. She documented every bit of her journey. Now, we kept wondering, was this influenced by society? Was it influenced by media? Was it influenced by advertising? But then we got to understand that the global cosmetic industry is worth over $75 billion annually. Now, this is constantly promoting ideals of youth, slimness, and perfection. Now, you want to consider the fact that teenage girls are using beauty filters to alter their faces before posting their photos online, or women in their 30s feeling pressured to get surgery to fit youthful standards. You see, let's take you back the memory lane. Beauty standards are not new because we talk about the early 1920s. Flapper women were pressured to have short hair, slim figures, and pale skin. In the 1960s, the ideal shifted to tall, slim models. Now, these pressures had already always existed, okay, because they try to shape women's decisions, often without the women even realizing what the problem could be. Okay, now I want you to think of a time when society, friends, or family have made you question how you look. How did it get to affect your choices, your mode of dressing, and the places you found yourself? Now, we want to talk about the fact that it is okay to point out anomalies, but where do we draw the line between empowerment and coercion? You see, altering one's body can boost confidence, but sometimes it is a response to societal norms. This is what feminists would call empowerment paradox. Let us use a case study this afternoon. A woman decides to have a breast augmentation. She said it made her feel confident at work. But when the surgeon did ask her to reflect on the situation, she did get to realize that part of the decision was pressure from society to look young, to look youthful and sexy. Now, would you say this was empowerment, or would you say this was coercion disguised as freedom? Sometimes it could be both, because trust me, two truths can coexist. But then you want to also work on the theory that Simone de Beauvoir says on bodily autonomy, where she argues that society constantly gets to define women's bodies, and true freedom is often deciding without social constraint. This is because the bell hooks will always suggest that empowerment requires critical awareness or structural pressures. So you want to talk about a husband, you want to talk about family, you want to talk about society, your colleagues at work, what they think about you and how you look. You see someone trying to greet you for the first time after not seeing you for a long time, and what they say is, you have added weight, so this is your stomach. It's not supposed to look like this. And a host of many other things they say, and they feel it is good. Now, I'll share the story of Ria with you. Now, Ria shares that she is at the age where she desperately feels like she wants to get married, okay? And it is pressure from society, family, and every other person. And so she has to go on blind dates, go on dating apps, try to meet people, you know, get referrals from friends on a lighter note. And she gets to talk to this person who ticks all of her boxes. But one day, she takes a picture of herself and she posts that picture on her social media handle. Now, this guy goes ahead to screenshot that picture. draw something around her stomach area, and then he says, "Why does your stomach look so big?" Now to him, this was trivial. To him, this was a joke, as he termed it. But to her, that was something she could not condone. And this was her throwing 6 months of constant communication, doing life with a person and trying to see where it leads to for the better, just because he made a derogatory remark about her body. Now, some people will feel like she has overreacted right there, but women who hold on to the bell hooks theory will make you understand that the disrespect comes in little forms, and the pressure gets to mount from even the minutest, in quotes, occurrences such as that. Now let's also talk about informed consent. Let's talk about medical ethics. You see, truly empowering decisions will always require women to undergo procedures without the full knowledge of this risk. Infection, nerve damage, scarring, or even the psychological stresses that will come with all of these procedures. Let's point out the fact that a woman had a simple cosmetic procedure, believing it would boost her confidence. She experienced complication for months, and she did feel trapped by the decision. You want to understand that autonomy is not just about making the choice. It is about making an informed and unpressured choice. That is why when you want to undergo a cosmetic surgery, you are being given a consent form. When you have a consent form, you can go right ahead to make sure that you mark unregulated practices, whatever pressure, misleading marketing. Empowerment does not exist without any form of transparency and your access to accurate information. Now, what that form does is that it educates you, informs you, and makes sure you see an intersectional perspective of all of the effect and repercussions of what you decide to do with your body after going through all of that. Now, we want to share that on a particular social media platform, there have been a lot of stories coming up from young girls who have been sharing stories about their lives after a cosmetic procedure of sucking out belly fat to attach to their hips and their behinds. Now, there has been a lot of stories, there have been a lot of testimonies, a lot of crying out for people who have lost their lives, people who have been abandoned by their doctors right after the process. We also want to talk about the fact that you spend about 4.5 million naira to enhance your body parts, but you are spending 7 million naira after effect to make sure that your health is in good shape. Let us also talk about culture, race, economic status, affecting the access to cosmetic procedures and social pressures. Now, we also want to talk about the fact that the examples of all of this, right? And when we talk about the fact that these things have examples, we don't point out enough how specific these examples can come of and the people they work with. You see, women of color continuously navigate Eurocentric beauty standards. Women with low income in communities facing unsafe procedures, different cultures with unique pressures. South Korea, plastic surgery is common and very expected. In other countries, it is rare and very expensive. You want to reflect that autonomy looks different for each woman, depending on culture, depending on class, and depending on privilege. You do not have autonomy to decide to wreck your body at a substandard facility. You do not have autonomy because you decide to pursue Eurocentric beauty standards. You look at yourself and then you understand that as a woman, you look the way you look. You either decide to be proud of it or you take a walk in the park and decide to get it right when you do it. Getting yourself informed, keeping yourself knowledgeable, and holding on to every single fact of after self-care, and even keeping your psychology in check. Let's also talk about digital data consent for a woman. Well, we've talked about cosmetic consent. Let's go over to the digital part of it. We'll talk about surveillance. We'll talk about data ownership. You see, in this age of digitalization, women's bodies exist online. We're talking of photos, we're talking of scans, we're talking about biometric data. All of these are collected by social media apps, fitness apps, and even the government. Let us use a case study. The rise of deep fakes have led to women's faces being used in pornographic content even without their consent, creating trauma and stripping digital autonomy. Now you want to ask yourself if your face or your body does exist digitally without your consent. Who could be in control of those accounts? And what are the legal frameworks put in place right behind technology? You see, all of these continuously make women very vulnerable to privacy violations. You want to ask women to quit social media and maybe not try to put themselves in harm's way. But for how long do we continue to hold emphasis on the vulnerability of women? Let's take a trip down to talk about AI, filters, and body image. We're going to share a story of a particular young girl who had her image tarnished by a guy on social media. Now, this was strictly because he felt he could. A woman gets to post about her relationship on social media. This guy goes right ahead to take a picture of her on one of her social media platforms and uses an AI tool to enhance the photo between he and the girl in question coming together and sharing an intimate moment. Everyone starts to question. Everyone starts to have an opinion. Some even called her derogatory names and made underhanded demands about the girl in question. But you want to note that truth comes out at the end of the day, and the girl in question never knew this guy. They've never met. They do not even know that they exist somewhere in different climes. But guess what? Violations of privacy on social media. Guess who walked away freely after tendering a half-baked apology? We want to talk about the effect of these filters, AI beauty apps, and virtual models creating impossible standards. You see, statistics and studies have shown that over 60% of teenage girls report low self-esteem after using beauty fillers regularly. We also want to use an example of influencers who use filters to enforce an unrealistic body ideal, making young women believe that they must look perfect to be accepted by society. You want to discuss with someone close to you at this moment how technology shapes our perception of our bodies. You see, consent, agency, and ethics, and ethical issues surrounding AI and digital body data will always include image-based abuse, non-consensual photo sharing. So these days you have people putting their photos on view once, just so that you do not share their photos to people they have not shared it to. We want to talk about a case study of a woman who discovers that her fitness app, for which she shared confidential data with, also got to share that data with third parties, including body measurements and location. Now, this is a breach that has violated her digital autonomy. We also want to reflect that autonomy requires the power to refuse, but technology often removes that power. And that is why we have to continuously talk about digital consent, global perspective, and future implications. Digital body autonomy will always look different around the world for every clime you find yourself. You see, a lot of times we talk about the different places in the world, and we have to understand that countries with strong digital privacy and the laws governing them provide some protection for these women. But countries without regulation consistently leave women vulnerable, because emerging technologies like augmented and virtual reality will raise new questions in the minds of people. You want to ask who owns your digital body? Maybe someone out there is using your body for a motive and an intention you have never thought about. You want to ask how we ensure consent in virtual spaces. The future of body autonomy will both be physical and digital, because with the widespread of technology and information readily accessible to everybody on the internet, then you want to know that there should be a call for action at this point. Well, today we have seen that body autonomy is far more than reproductive rights. It includes cosmetic consent, just as we have talked about earlier, the right to make informed and unpressured choices. We have also talked about digital body data. This is the right to control how our bodies exist online. And empowerment requires awareness, information, and resistance to pressure, socially, in cultural ways, and technologically. Now, I want you to think back to that moment where you felt some sort of pressure to change your body. Imagine if every woman could make decisions without fear, manipulation, but with full knowledge of what they are in for. That is the world we must continuously try to build. Let us advocate for transparency and regulation when it comes to cosmetic procedures. Let us look out for technological literacy and data privacy for women, girls, and even young ladies coming up. Let us look forward to cultural change that will constantly respect women's choices. Remember, autonomy is freedom, physically, in digital ways, technological frames, psychologically. Let us reclaim it. Let us learn to respect it. And let us try to protect it with everything we have got. Because at the end of the day, one woman who understands the implication of making such choices and giving consent as at when necessary is able to build a strong, more awareness-centered, enlightened, and even stringent measures applied in a world where women can decide to reclaim, respect, and protect themselves for what it's worth. And so it's been another amazing Friday afternoon right here on Spectrum TV with the program Empower Her. I want to say thank you so much for being a part of the program. You do well to keep a date with me next week Friday at 3 p.m. Empower Her comes your way again, and we would have yet another enlightening and very amazing conversation on the program. Well, I want to say bye for now. Have yourself a very nice day. Enjoy the rest of today and make sure you usher the weekend in with a big smile on your face. My name is Rita Eno, and I've been your anchor and pilot on the program. Have a good day.